Good morning. It's not Fun Day Friday, but we're gonna have some fun Mondays. So welcome to Sales Chatter, the logistics podcast with the mission of helping 10,000 reps hit a million GP. I'm your co-host Ryan Mohammed, aka the Logistics Monk. With me is my amazing friend, President and CEO of RGTX Logistics Solutions, and the bodacious cowboy, Jeff Dickinson. How you doing this morning, brother?
Good, my man. Quick weekend and March Madness. Great games over the weekend. FDU beating Purdue, and then falling last night. That was kind of tough. But you know what? It is Monday. It is a new week of Sales Chatter Live at 11 a.m. daily. So let's go and do this. Let's get into it. Let's go.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
There we go. So you mentioned March Madness, Jeff. Is your bracket busted, or do you do brackets anymore?
No,
Or
no, I still have Xavier and Gonzaga still in there, man. I got good feelings about that. After FDU won that game against Purdue, I was like, they could go all the way, until last night, and it was like, so it's like, hey, it is what it is, but man, it unbelievable games. Some of the tightest games, and some games that you thought that the other team would not win, no chance in hell, and boom. And it happened a few times. So yeah, it was an exciting weekend, definitely on college basketball for sure. How about you? What did
yeah,
you do this weekend?
yeah, this weekend was pretty cool. Pretty cool. So I don't really watch too much March Madness. I'd like to, especially if there's certain players who are going to be entering the NBA the next season. So I didn't catch that, but I went to a Toronto Raptors game on Saturday night.
How
So
was
they played against. It was amazing. It was just the atmosphere was amazing. Didn't enjoy paying $16 for a beer, but hey, pay to play, man. Supply chain, right? You gotta roll with the punches. So our lucky Raptors, they got the win yesterday. Biggest highlight of the week for you, Jeff, on my weekend was we got a new vacuum. You know you're old when you're excited for all
Oh
these new
yeah.
appliances.
Woo!
Let's go, right? So, what's something pretty cool that you got up to, other than watching the basketball?
Oh, what did I do this weekend? Not much. I went out to dinner. We usually break up the week and take the wife out to a nice restaurant. And we went to this one restaurant on Lake Capacon, which isn't that far from where I live, called the Windlass.
Mm.
Awesome place. It's been here for decades, and we've been up here for decades. Never went to it, so it's always a new thing. I love that kind of stuff, and yeah, it was pretty good. But most of the weekend, I just watched basketball, and
What a
like I
life!
said, awesome.
What a life! Yeah, we went to your favorite kind of cuisine yesterday. My sister and my wife, we went to sushi last night. So it was amazing. Butterfish was amazing. The tuna was amazing. So was able to enjoy that weekend and kind of set the mood for the week. So, both you and I, we've had an amazing journey off the past couple of weeks. It's been
Yes.
something that's been spectacular. It's been life changing, and we'll get into it. So let's break it down week by week and
No.
kind of give our thoughts, and kind of go from there rather than kind of being a little bit all over the place. So the first week, in empowering women into logistics, we had the amazing HR professionals be with us. I think we'll take it as a week as a whole rather than going
Yeah.
by episode. But what are your thoughts learning, and what did you learn in that week with our HR reps?
Well, the thing was on that side is that there's still a lot to learn, on the recruiting side. It's not what we all think that it is. There's no cherry on top of this whatsoever. We still have a long way to go. And it's a shame, Ryan. It really is. When you think about, where we were, where we are now, where we need to be, and how the heck we're going to get there. I keep on saying it all the time, but it just seems that there needs to be more collaboration on both sides, and men need to support women more often now than ever before. Not to say that they're not, so don't get me wrong on that, but there's just so much more that they need to do to help women to get to that next level. And you and I spoke about that over and over again, and we brought it up with our guest, and it seemed to me that it was overwhelming that that really needs to be done. And Eileen Dabrowski, how she summed it up and said, it's not he, she, it's humans. We're human beings, and we should treat each other just as that, respect, help, guide, mentor, coach, develop, each other. And, it's so important. I don't know. What did you think about that?
I thought, well, when we were talking with the HR recruiters, there's always two things that really stick out to me, Jeff, was when Brooke Sims from Mac Recruiters, Executive Recruiters, was explaining job descriptions and how some of them can be like words. There's power words that can be seen as being masculine, things like leader, and there's different words that she mentioned. And I never thought about that,
No,
self-motivated and how they can have like, okay, well, are we geared for like a male or a female? And just having like that inclusive language, I think that speaks to everybody because I think in our journey here, you and I, we've both we've seen both sides of the coin, right? But you and I've been able to understand just because somebody's not like me doesn't mean that I can't learn from them. It doesn't
right,
mean that I can give some tips, basically my background, because there might be something I can relate to them. And when you talk about collaboration, it's so important to have those conversations. And I'll say this, Jeff, one of the biggest benefits from doing this whole journey with you is that I've gotten out of my comfort zone and I've been inviting not, let's say, random people, but people that I necessarily wouldn't include in my inner circle to go grab a coffee, let's go talk about certain things and learn from people. Like I made it a point to talk to somebody new every single day. And seeing what their kind of aspects are. So just come back to the recruiters. I thought it was amazing that we've had amazing guests. And the other thing that I said that really stood out for me was when we I believe it was Kelly who was from Herman. She was basically talking about recruiting drivers and saying that, hey, drivers right now are hard to get in general. It's not a male or a female thing. The next big jump is when everybody who's been doing it for X amount of years, over 20 years plus, when they retire, what's going to happen to our drivers and what's going to be the next thing? Like, how do we make this sexy again? How do we make driving the best thing in the world? So those were my big takeaways for HR weekend. I would love to get everybody else in the audience to share with us as we're kind of recapping the month with us. What was the lessons that they learned?
yeah, and another good thing too was that what Kelly was saying at the time, I think it was a couple of weeks back, that she had 15 open positions, right? I believe it was
Yeah.
for drivers, and she wanted to fill them with all women. I thought that was great. So I would have to think still as of today, if there's anybody out there that knows of some women drivers that are looking for positions, reach out to Kelly Barrico at Herman's. She'll definitely be more than happy to talk with you, and that's what I love, like specific, women. We're looking for some women drivers, and it'd be great if we could get some more companies out there that's asking for the same thing. If it's not drivers, more office help, in any area of logistics, because that's what we were talking about, right? Empowering women into logistics. So we're talking about all aspects of it. So, yeah, it was just great. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I loved it. And it really set the tone too. Like we had an amazing time, and that week finished off with Charlie Safro, the president and CEO of CS Recruiting, and you know we had her on here, and she was, by the way, just first and foremost, everybody that came on the show, we were amazed. They're amazing people. They're giants and titans in what they do, but they're even better people, and that's the one thing that I've learned. What are your thoughts on having Charlie on the Friday to close that week out?
It was awesome. The thing is that what you preach, you teach. And the thing with that is that you can tell just by the people that we spoke to, that just the openness, that they are the same person outside the job as they are in the job, whether you own the company or working for that company. And that really stood with me out of everything, that they're genuine people out there. They're not faking to make it. We had the open platform, as you well know. Any guest that we have on the show, if you want to say what you want to say, feel free. No holds barred. Just let it fly. And they did. It wasn't like they were careful about how they said it. They said it the way they felt it, and that is the most important thing. That's how people learn. And if you fail, that's okay to fail because you learn from your failures. If you're not failing, you're not learning. So, I mean, and Charlie was one of those type of people that she just says it the way that it is. And that's the beauty of this show. Seriously.
100%. And everything, the stories that we've kind of learned as well is that their journey into this industry wasn't easy. A lot of the women that we had, they were pregnant or they were kind of going in between jobs and they were kind of figuring out, they had other things going on in their life that, hey, let me start a new venture was not easy. There's no easy button in logistics. And, it kind of like segues into like kind of like the next week that we kind of had. And we had some amazing guests, more kind of like on the carrier side to talk about it. We had Gail. Gail's episode was what could definitely, well, I'm going to say all of them were definitely one of my favorites. But, to hear the openness and to hear that she did like the customs on the custom sides, the paperwork, and then she was like, okay, I'm going to jump into it. And that episode really reinforced how companies and workforces get behind their employees. Gail has been working with Daman, who's a corporate sponsor of the show, and just to kind of see that she wasn't on a training aspect. Now she trains like agents and things like that, and being able to have conversations and step out of her comfort zone because nothing happens great in your comfort zone. And then we've had like the amazing team at Trucking Pros. I would love to hear your thoughts on Lynn and Rochelle coming on.
Oh, they were great. Another couple of women who said it the way that it is, and just think about, getting into brokerage and when you're not on the salary like Gail, and that it's either feast or famine, and what you do and how you do it, when you do it, why you do it, is so important. And how you project that to agents and tell them the way that it is, that you're not painting a pretty picture and saying, what, flowers are going to bloom as soon as you walk into the office. No, you're going to have to work. You're going to have to work hard at it. You're going to have a lot of failures. You're going to have to make a lot of adjustments. And, that kind of coaching, mentoring, and development, as well as the training, is so important in the brokerage operations instead of taking a seat and saying, go ahead, drive it. Gail wasn't that type of person. She was that kind of person that just went out there and said it, did it, and showed them how it's done. And, with the other two, the same kind of thing, the passion was there. There was no denying it. You could feel it in them. Rochelle was in the business for a very long time. Just like myself, you can see that there's passion in it as well. And you heard it in her tone and that she still has plenty more to do, raising a family, doing her business, and teaching and helping others to succeed. So it was all good, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, that was, and for me, the big takeaway with having my teammates, because I do work with Wellington Group companies from Trucking Pros, was that how they implemented EOS, and we'll get into that further on later because we actually do have EOS Suha coming on our show later in the next couple months to explain what it is. But to understand that they've put a system in place for success. The one thing that was really key for me was that when they use something like an EOS system, they know where they are at all times. So when it comes to like your raise, like let's say a yearly raise or biannually raise, you're like, okay, well, I worked hard for this. I should be expecting this. It's like, no, you'll know on day 1, day 2, day 5, month 10, where you stand. So I really thought that was awesome. And Antoine brings up a great thing with transparency. I think transparency was amazing. And just coming back as I'm reflecting, especially on Tracy and Rochelle, they were so like nervous and worried about coming on and doing the podcast. Because for a lot of people, it's their first time coming
and now they're pros.
Exactly. And that's the one thing I want to share with everybody is that share your voice, tell people your stories, because there's always going to be somebody that's going to want to listen, which was one of my favorite stories that I listened to was when Melissa was on here, Wokalo. She was on here on the Friday, and wow, just a spectacular, amazing pioneer in our industry, always willing to share her knowledge and just the struggles and everything that she came up through. She's somebody that inspires me quite a bit. She has a network that she does. I believe it's that Lita is a part of that network as well. What are your thoughts on Melissa? Because I know you and I, it was an emotionally charged episode, to be honest.
It was. And the biggest takeaway that I had from her being on is the transparency and the honesty and she told it exactly the way it was, not just for women but for men as well. Um, because where she came from and the struggles, the deep struggles that she had, and what she overcame, and the obstacles and the barriers she had to break through in order to climb that mountain to get to where she is. I, there's a lot of guys out there that had the same thing, and she was just speaking volumes to everybody that was watching out there, that it was relatable. It's not all peaches and cream, and you just come in here and it's easy peasy. It's not that way at all, and especially for the ones that were struggling coming out of the gate. That was the biggest one on that, and even Lita. Same kind of thing, living overseas, coming over here, driving a reefer truck, trying to do whatever she needed to do, making those adjustments, trying to figure out solutions and options and getting the results that she was looking for, developing the goals and objectives that she had in her own mind, not just on the business side, but on the personal side as well, and trying to get there in the best way she knew how. And she grew and she listened and she gained that knowledge, and look where she's at, just like Melissa. They did the whole thing, it's trial by error, keeping your finger on the pulse, understanding what the industry is doing at every moment of the day because it's so volatile. I mean, they're doing it all right. I mean, at least the way I look at it.
100%. And they're leaving a path for other people to feel safe.
Indeed.
And that's what one of the biggest things that I think Melissa, once we got off air and sharing this with the audience here, was I always kind of ask, hey, how did you feel? Would you do it again? Like, that's kind of like the way that we kind of say it. And that was the first time somebody's actually said, like, I felt like a safe space here. Like, I've never been on a different podcast. I wanted to, and I was amazed that Melissa wasn't on another podcast before, because if you're a podcast host and you have a show, you need to get her on, to get her, like, just to hear her story and hear everything like that. And David actually brings up something. He's going to spoil something that I've been actually personally working on, which was making a compilation video with highlights, so that we can kind of promo our next seasons and things like that. That's actually something I'm working on.
Yep.
Where I'm about 75% done, David. So I'll make sure I'll send it over to you. And Lisa has bring up some great points here, very relatable, and then especially with Lita. One of the things that I've learned as well was how amazing Anne is. I know Anne's a personal friend of yours. She's doing ocean and everything like that. Love to get your thoughts. Not necessarily how you know her or before. I'd love to get your opinion on after taking in her experience and everything like that.
Yeah, another one. I mean, Anne, is that type of person who's been in the industry on the ocean side, international side of the business for many decades. And, it for her as well. I mean, she's seen a lot of things that have happened throughout the decades where, the younger folks didn't have that. And she was talking about, pretty much where we were, where we are now, and how much more we need to evolve that to get more women involved and get them recognized and help them to level up. And it was great, the engagement that that we had with her. She was just so forthcoming and just let it fly. She's the type of person that doesn't hold back and says it just the way it is as well. We're just so lucky that we had all those women up to that point who kind of felt the same way and was like, you know what, I can talk here, and there's no repercussions or anything like that they felt that safe, to say those kind of things. So, that made me happy, and I know it made you happy as well. And I'm pretty sure that it made the audience feel the same way. Wow, that thought-provoking kind of chat that makes people think, maybe I don't really have it all that bad compared to what these people have gone through. It was all good, man. It was all good.
Yeah, Anne is just a sweetheart, and I just remember her like having that experience as a photographer and asking her like what has she kind of translated over from photography, and the one thing she said was adapting to every person, to every client is going to be different. They're going to have different needs, different. Even it could be she could like photograph 5 different people, and
Yeah.
might be doing the same poses, but there's different things that you look for and kind of find the solutions there. So I thought it was extremely important that you understand that, especially when it comes to logistics industry, it's not a one size fit all. That's why, that spray and pray email, we're not going to get into that today, but
No,
it's not going to work. It's not going to work from there. And
but
the next day,
something, yeah, to your point though, I mean, with photography, and she looks at different people, think about, how that's relatable to sales.
Mhm.
You can't treat everybody the same way, and you see different things in each and every person that you run into or chat to, or listen to. And it that's the way that you should really go about things. You have to have that chameleon type uh, attitude where you can change on a dime. And I've always said it, you have to be like a psychologist, a master of different personalities, especially on the sales side, because no two individuals are the same and your approaches are going to be different. So you have to be a really good listener, like Ann was saying, and try to understand and picture people differently, not in the same realm as everybody else.
See that, that was exactly perfect. And then I actually brings us to our next guest, who was amazing, Cargo Margot. I hated that I was having internet issues that day, so that you can see, but it still worked properly. But the one thing I learned from her was, like, having that why, find your why first, knowing. And if anybody who doesn't know, Simon Sinek, author of Start With Why, a great book, and you probably see it all over social media. But with that being said, understanding that why you actually work for something, you might say, hey, I want a new car, I want a new house, or I want to be financially responsible or stable or something like that. And knowing that your why that you can go to when you have those rough days. I'm gonna paint this picture here. Like, logistics is not easy at all. It's probably the hardest. It's the hardest job that I've ever done. But if you see I feel like with social media in general, you see the good sides of it, right? You see everything, the accomplishments, all the things that has gone well, but you never get to see that, open the curtain and see all the issues that you kind of face with to get to that point. No, nobody knows the rejection, or like feeling like, hey, am I in the right industry? Like, I still
Really?
think that in my theory from here. So for her to kind of come out and start with why, she's amazing. Everybody doesn't know, she has her own show called the Cargo Margo Show. Jeff and I were actually on it. They're going to air our episodes in the future. So that was spectacular. What are your thoughts on Cargo Margo?
Yeah, I mean, another great human being who said it the way she did, and that why. Every purpose in life has a why. Why are you doing this? There's a reason behind it, right? You just don't do things for the sake of doing it. There's always a why factor on what, how you're doing things and why you're doing it that way, and is it beneficial for you? And that's what she was getting into when she was describing all those things. And it was such a crucial question. Why? So, I mean, she was great, and it was also a lot of fun being on her show, like you said, and she's just so honest and so fluid, if you want to call her that. Things just roll off her tongue so nice and easy, and it just makes you feel at home. It's that comfort zone.
100%. And when I think of her and I think of everybody here, every guest we've had on, every audience question or any comment or anything like that, and even you, Jeff, I consider you guys, like, everyone, like, great friends. Like, there's nobody who I consider like a stranger anymore, especially if they've been on the show, or like I said, in the audience, and yourself as well. So with Cargo Margot, she's amazing. I've reached out to her a couple times, and shout out to Damon, because I want to talk about that little why that we're talking about, because I had a conversation with Damon a couple weeks ago, and it made me actually switch my thinking. It wasn't why, it was like, what do you want? Like, what do you want? Not necessarily today or like when you retire and all that stuff. It's like, what do you want in the next 3 to 5 years? What do you want in the next 10 years? And how are we going to take one step and kind of go forward there? And that brings us to the guest that we had the next day, which was Lita, who was
Yep.
somebody who came here, who watched YouTube videos, of how to be a freight broker, of Dennis Brown, who's a great YouTuber giving a lot of knowledge for free. She took his boot camp and she put in the work, no excuses. Her husband's a truck driver as well. She was a truck driver for a reefer carrier, and then she expanded it. And she went into like the hardest, I personally think the hardest equipment type in this industry, which is oversized and overdimensional freight. but it is a niche, right? It's something that she's worked with her, and she said, she worked with Melissa and how to build everything up. And it was important that she talked about getting a mentor in this industry. And now she does coaching. What are your thoughts on having a lead on sales
Yeah,
trader?
I mean, she dove right into it, right? Let's just go for the hardest thing that you can possibly move, at least the way I look at it, heavy haul, oversized, that kind of stuff. And also she got her CDL license too, and did that and said, you know what, I have to be home, I want to become a broker. So that's a person who knew exactly what she wanted to do, and she had to figure out how she's going to do that. So she went to the YouTube and started watching, the professionals out there, how to become a brokerage. You start reading, talking to friends, all that kind of stuff, all mentoring and coaching. And she really took it to heart. And now, like you said, she's coaching and helping other women, and probably men as well. How the heck were you so successful in a short period of time? Because she was determined. She wanted to get to where she needed to be, and she wanted to do it right. She wasn't looking to do it as quickly as possible, but she had those little steps, and she did it all, and that's the way that you have to do it. And she, at the same time, keeping her finger on the pulse to make sure she was competitive and getting more business and growing her business. And perfect, absolutely perfect.
Perfect. Perfect. And the one thing I laughed about that she was saying was like, she would send like those shipping manager, like first customer, she would just send them like pictures. Hey, I'm in Florida this week. Hey, I'm in this place this week, and no reply. And then they just genuinely ask like, what do you do? And then they kind of got working together. So, there's so many unconventional ways of getting business and getting people to have conversations. And that's all we're doing. We're just trying to spark a conversation and see where it kind of leads. And, we had Nicole Glenn on the next day from Candor Expedite, and just her knowledge with everything. I think it's unfortunate to me, and I hate to kind of vocal this out loud, but the one takeaway from me was negative in the terms of that one, her HR professional was winning an award,
Oh,
and the place they basically said that, "Are you sure?" Like it was discrimination from there, and I know we shouldn't be focusing on the negative, but that was kind of like a lasting memory. Even though Nicole is an amazing person, she's a podcast host of the Ladies, I think the LLC, the coalition. So it's amazing kind of see. What are your thoughts on Nicole just in general? Because like we all know who Nicole is. She's always an advocate year over year for being one of the best.
yes, and well respected in the industry. Somebody that other women and even men look up to. And for her to come out and be as honest as she is, and said that one of the guys said women don't belong in this space, and it just was shocking. But not because I say that because the decades I've been in the business, and that was something in the past, way back. And you figured that would have been extinguished, not even mentioned, discussed, or even thought about. And it's just shocking that that kind of stuff still happens today. And that's why we are doing the things that we are doing, Ryan, to bring that up a little bit, acknowledge the things that women are doing in the industry, that it's not the same. They're working hard. They should be on the same level playing field as everybody else, treated the same way, the same pay, with the same equal rights. It was just blew me away. And I'm not afraid to say that. I just can't believe that guys would go and say that kind of stuff. It's just,
Yeah, it's you think you're taking like 10 steps forward, and then you take another 2 steps backwards. But it's important that we actually had that actually be shared with us. Like we said, like when it comes to logistics or just in life, don't only share like the wins. Share the losses, share the things that you definitely don't agree with. And it actually leads into our final week of what we've done. And we had Eileen Dabrowski with us, and she was spectacular. It's just to kind of know, like, she got into logistics randomly as well. She had amazing insight, the things that they do, the philanthropy initiatives that they're all about. And the one thing she says is about like the high fives and the cheerleaders and being an advocate for each other. It's not you versus me or me versus you, or you got to do performance. And what I appreciate about Eileen is that she has so many hats. She does the curriculums, she does the learning paths, and it's just not for the new reps that come in or the new operations like that. It's a lifelong journey. she'll check in and make sure that, hey, what do you want to do? What do you accomplish? And one thing that really stood out with me was that, I'm training for the next person to take over my seat. So as I kind of evolve as well. So she was spectacular. If you got to hit her up in Tampa Bay, I believe she is in. What are your thoughts on having Eileen on the show?
Awesome, and she said it the way that I think it. Always hire people that are smarter than you because they represent you, and that's exactly what she does. She puts the right people in the right positions to be successful, and she just doesn't drop them there. She's on top of them in a good way, helping them to succeed, giving them the tools that are necessary for them to learn and get that knowledge and to help them succeed and move within that company. Even if they stay there or if they move on, she's doing her job to help other people. And the biggest takeaway line was when she related to he and she as human beings. That was like the biggest thing there, that, she recognizes everybody as an equal. It's them, they're human beings, treat each other as such. It's the old adage, treat people the way you want to be treated. And she exemplifies that and does exactly that. And it was great to have her on too. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. And it was a great, our Mondays, it really sets the tone. So, as with Ann being on a Monday, Gil being on a Monday, and then the Mac executive recruiters being on a Monday, it really set the tone for the whole week. So we're so appreciative of her spending that time with us. And we had Ashley on the next day.
Yep.
The one big takeaway from me was how she's been at every different stage of logistics you can think of,
Mm-hmm.
being like, customs and working with different operations. And everywhere she's been a top go-getter, and that was the one thing that really, really was cool with me. And, speaking the affirmations in the mirror sometimes, and having her own way of how she handles her business and things like that. I just see her just being super successful, especially with everybody else that we've kind of had on as well. But she is somebody that I believe that everybody can learn from, and you reach out to her. I think that's amazing. With, like I said, with everybody else, take it with a grain of salt. But I learned quite a bit. What were your thoughts on having Ashley on the show?
Yeah, no, the same thing. And everybody that was on the show prior to her, they all said, hey, if you want to reach out, if you want to learn, if you need some help or anything, they were there to help mentor other women that are out there, and that's so nice when people offer that kind of, opportunity to do so. So you're not alone, and it's just the same way as Ashley believes the same way. You're not alone in this industry. We're all here to help each other out, and she talked about that and all that. So I mean, it was awesome. It was great. All the way up to that point, it was great.
Perfect. And that leads into our number one super fan. I remember the days of when Sales Chatter first got started with Dan and DJ. They didn't figure out their background, so it was looking pretty bootleg. It wasn't looking as nice as it looks now. But I remember the days when it was just me, you, and Lisa Petty, who was on our show. And I'll say this: I said this on the show when you and I came up with this topic. Lisa was the first person I reached out to. Hey, what do you think about this? And because I know how much being a mom, being an entrepreneur, being somebody who makes a difference in this world means to Lisa, because she lives through that every single day. She takes the time, and that was actually part of the reason why we actually switched up the time to from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time, because no matter what, she was there every morning. And
Every
for
morning.
those who don't know, she's on the West Coast, right? So she's there at 6 a.m. in the morning, cheering us on and being there in the crowd. And it was really important for me to have that conversation with her, learn what being a mom was, being a wife was, being an entrepreneur, and what the future is. She's somebody who took that trip over to Rwanda earlier this year and has done spectacular things and continues growing. Just an amazing person. There's no words. I can go on forever. But Lisa, one thing I really, really learned from her was that stick to your guns. If you want to make that change, go for it. It's going to be scary, but there's growth on the other side of that. So, yeah, I'll let you take the floor with Lisa.
Yeah, Lisa is definitely someone who is extremely special. If you recall, before we even went live on the air, she got so emotional, started tearing up can't believe I'm here. I'm doing this kind of stuff. That's an honest person, no matter which way that you look at it. When you show your emotions and your passions and how you feel, and how grateful you are to others that helped her to get to where she is, and what she was able to do and overcome all those years. She was in the business, I believe, for 16 years, and she kept on leveling it up and leveling up and working with her husband Chad, and with her two kids, and then taking that leap of faith and going to Rwanda for a couple of weeks to learn how they do business over there. I mean, she exemplifies a lot of the women out there that if I can do it, you can do it. And I've had struggles, and this is how I overcame them. And I refuse to lose. I mean, it's just that kind of mentality. And when you have people with that kind of mindset, they can do wonderful things, and they can just keep on moving. And that's why she would be a great mentor and coach for other women out there who may have had the same struggles as her, maybe not, but the steps that she took to get to where she's been. So yeah, she's always great, and she's always the number one supporter of the show, and I appreciate that. I'm grateful.
Yeah. Yeah, we appreciate you, Lisa. Thank you. Not even appreciate. We love you. We thank you so much for everything you do for us. But then, we had, like I said, one person who really came from my background, from the West Indian background, to understand what I've kind of done in my life, and we had Kim Harichan from here, and it was refreshing to kind of see the conversations that you have. And I'll always go back to asking her, hey, who inspired you in this career? Because she didn't get into logistics. She has psychology degree, and it was her mom. Seeing, I know both of us, I was kind of rewatching it over the weekend and seeing our reactions, because mama knows best, man. I don't care what anybody says. No matter how old you are, you'll always want your mom, and you always want your mom to be proud of you. And just to hear her, not necessarily struggles, but just the way that she's really, really worked extremely hard. Truly, like both you and I said, if you're not a director or VP within the next 5 years, and you are the force to be reckoned with, to be honest. So, what are your thoughts on having Kim on?
It was so funny. It's like, oh, I don't know. This is my first podcast that I've ever been on. I was like, watch out, kiddo, because your inbox is going to load up, and now you're going to get all these invites to go on other podcasts. And don't blame us. It was a lot of fun. I mean, so intelligent in what she does, and again, another individual that wants to help other women, not just from the West Indies, but any women who are out there that need that mentoring and coaching. And, it was just that feeling that you and I had that, what, she's going to move. She's going to move into another position, like real soon, because she's like another highly driven woman that is just going through those barriers, crashing through those barriers and jumping over those obstacles to get where she needs to be. And it's so good to hear. It's just awesome. All the women that were on, it just like puts a smile on my face just to hear that, positivity at a whole different level. It's awesome.
That's awesome, and that's what we set out to do. And the one thing I liked about Kim was that she was like our first guest who was like global. She could speak to being global and international, which is pretty cool. But
Yes.
you want to talk energy, Jeff? You want to talk positivity? You want to talk having fun? Let's get to our main girl, Maria. Maria was so much fun. Just to hear everything that she's been through, coming into this country as an immigrant from Cuba, and just kind of really working her way up and being amazing at who she is. And like we said, that energy, that positivity. I'm hoping that we can get together soon, because like that, I want to learn from that, to be positive. I believe she turns 50 in a couple months, and just to hear how much she loves this industry. Like she said, she worked, I think, customs as well. No, containers. She did containers, ocean shipments and things like that. And then she got into brokerage and moved within different places. And just the love that she has for every single day. It's just, that's the way we need to be. It's not always going to be sunrises, and it's not going to be like candy and all that stuff every single day. But she controls what she can control and does it with a smile on her face. What did you think about Maria?
Firecracker, number one. That just that just comes right out of my mouth. Just a total firecracker. Not really much about the love of her job, the love of people. I
Yeah,
mean,
love
you
life.
just see that just radiates, just fun, loving individual that just truly enjoys and appreciates everything that she's done, as long as she's done it in the industry, and she shows it, and it rolls over to her customers. She said, there's a lot of customers that I reach out to and they can't understand what I'm saying. I was like, you speak pretty good English. I don't know what the problem is. Maybe it's just an excuse or something like that. But I mean, she's great. I mean, she's just a ball of laughter, a ball of fun. I'm sure just because of her personality, she draws business in like no other. I mean, it's that magnet and steel kind of thing. It's just like room. It's just so engaging for sure. Another one hasn't done a podcast, right? First one, knocked it out of the park, I thought.
Knocked out of the park. So much fun. And one thing is that we're looking forward to following up with everybody in the next couple months. Let it breathe a little bit and hear where they are in their journeys and what they've kind of learned, so that they can share with us. So that brings us to the final episode that we had of Empowering Women into Logistics. And this one was you and I, we were texting one day. I think it was the first week, and we're kind of looking at our guests, and we're like, okay, cool. Let's try to go out with a bang. So I'm like, I know I went after Shelley Walker, who is the president and CEO of the Canadian Women's Association, and I was like, okay, cool, we got her. So like, I'm like, okay, cool, we made this happen. And then you came back and was like, what if we get Ellen? What if we do it? And I was like, could we get her? Because I've been a follower of her for a while, and knowing that she has like a big platform, big things. But let's just get into it, man. I think that was one of the biggest learning episodes for me. I learned two things specifically on that day, Jeff, was chains are called jewelry. So I thought that was pretty cool to learn that from Shelly.
Awesome.
That was awesome. And another part of that we didn't touch on, and I think maybe we'll touch on in future, was rights of the LGBTQ plus community. And the one thing that really stood out when Shelly was talking about, there's some employers out there for like and if a worker's transgender, and they said that, hey, we expect you to dress like a man, or we expect you to dress like a woman. And that didn't sit right with me, in terms of who people are, because especially in our industry, right, like, let people understand. But the thing that she said was like, communicate with them. And they're not, they're our coworkers, they're our neighbors, they're our friends. They're not people like in a random community or anything like that. They're people that we see amongst every day. So they'll be more than willing to have conversations with you, just like I will. Like, I'll let you know what I like to be called and what I don't like to be called. Same thing with you, Jeff, right? So what are your thoughts on that season finale, truly, of last Friday that we had?
Yeah, it was definitely awesome, and both Shelley and Eileen, or Ellen, just said it the way it was. I mean, again, just forthcoming and talking about their organizations and the problems that they had. And Ellen is the president and founder of Women in Trucking Association here in the States. And with the women in trucking membership, I was just like kind of falling back, where I still have it up here. 84.5% were women, 15.5% were men. Guys, we need to get that support. Whether it's on the Canadian side or in the States, to support the women in these trucking organizations, and help them to succeed. And we pushed it. We gave out. Lisa gave out 2 free. Actually, Stacy started it. Then Lisa jumped on board and gave 2 more free ones, and I was like, "Well, heck with that! I'm gonna double that up," And we got the takers on that. But the thing is that we have so much more to do on both sides of the border to increase men getting involved. And just because it says the Women in Trucking Federation, Women in Trucking Association, it's not just for women, it's a name. And they still need our support, and we need to push it forward. And I'm just daring any guys out there right here on the podcast, man. Come on, guys, let's get out there. Let's support these women. It's about time. Let's jump on the bandwagon and help them to get to where they need to be. I'm not afraid to say it. It's been going on way too long, and we could not have ended empowering women into logistics without those two. They were the dynamite of all 4 weeks that we did this on, and we just need to help them to get to the next level. And I know that you and I, are going to help them to do that on both sides of the border. So I really appreciated both of them coming on. I had to pinch my cheek. It was like, how the heck did we pull that off? And they said it was the first time that they were both on a podcast ever. Maybe at events, but not on a podcast. So it was a great way to end the empowering women into logistics. But we're not done, are we, Ryan?
No, not at all. And just foremost for everybody, if you haven't like checked out our episodes, I made a playlist on our YouTube channel, so you can scan that QR code, support the channel a little bit. We got a little small business here, so we're trying to grow it up there and check those episodes. And hey, even if you caught like a previous episode, a replay or anything like that, let us know what you think. Message Jeff and I. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, and how we can kind of grow that. So leave that up there for a little bit. We actually kind of get into our next. Our next part of what we're doing. But I actually want to shout out both you, Lisa, and Stacy for doing that. I hope all 6 winners got everything kind of taken care of, and they're now members. I think I had a thought too, Jeff, that maybe you and I every week will maybe give away 1 or 2 memberships just because to Women Trucking, and we'll share the love. We'll do the Canadian side and the US side, and just kind of bring awareness, because they do have their event in November, which I saw, which is going to be fun. I know you and I are personally going to be going there ourselves to meet all these amazing people. Which is really, really cool to kind of see here as from there. So taking this off the screen from there, just want to get a little comments as Daman brings it here that, definitely, Jeff, we're here to support all women and look into the industry. And, Daman has an amazing team at Centurion Trucking and American Logistics. Always looking for sales reps. Doesn't matter who you are, you can definitely grow. I've actually got some friends who are working there as well, and they just love the direction of what they do. And they've got some pretty big things in the future. So definitely hit them up if you're looking for something to go from there. But, like we said, we're not done. I kind of want to open the curtain a little bit of what we were doing. So when Jeff and I plan out these seasons, what we do is that we go for 4 weeks. Then we do a week of like replays. So we'll like pick some of like the top high rated views or whatever, or some of our favorite ones, replay that for a week. And then we'll do like a season finale, right? For that week. But we said, forget that. We love what we're doing, that we're going to continue this on. So this week, we're just changing the topic a little. We're changing the end, So we're still empowering women, but this week we're going to be doing empowering women into business. We have amazing guests this week from all various platforms and industries in this amazing way that they've actually elevated themselves and the people around them. So we'll put out the guest list. I did put out the guest list as well, but this is actually going to end on Friday with the CEO of Drink Sorilla, an amazing non-alcoholic drink in the States. Sarah Delaney, who I know Lisa is a huge fan of, and I love the drinks. They actually sent me over. By the way, if you want to send over some merch, we're not going to complain. We'll wear it and drink it there. But we're excited to have her on, especially with all the guests there. And next week would have been, hey, a replay week or something like that. But we're working on something. I won't. Actually, no, we'll announce it. We're going to be actually bringing on female drivers onto all of next week for them to kind of share their stories, because what Shelly said impacted Jeff and I quite a bit, to the fact of that sometimes they go into a shower on a truck stop and it's not safe for them. It's not, they don't have the facilities for women and things like that. So I think we need to highlight it and actually get it from women drivers specifically. So we'll be announcing that lineup probably the end of this week. And who knows what's next. Who knows if you guys have any thoughts or anything like that. It's going to be spectacular and amazing. Jeff, what do you think, man? Just as I would love you to recap the whole thing as a whole, the journey, and your thoughts on what's next.
Yeah, the journey is,
as Jeff's internet isn't working really well, so we'll wait for him to kind of come back on here. So there we go.
The journey is for Jeff to get a new internet. No, the journey hasn't ended. We're going to keep on pushing this narrative for sure. Ryan and I have talked about this for a while. Exposed a lot of things over the last 4 weeks. Not that I'm surprised, because I've seen it and I've lived through it for a few decades, and it's still bothersome. And we're all human beings, and we all need to be on the same page. We all need to support each other. Men supporting women, women supporting men, which they've always had, and we need to make that change. And if we can identify those areas that need to be adjusted, Ryan and I are committed to doing so, and we will talk to the people who are in it, living it, um, uh, in all areas. We will not stop on this venture. And so, there's so much more involved in this, and it's not just in logistics. As Ryan mentioned, next week we're going to be going into empowering women into business, because it affects all areas. It doesn't matter what vertical, what industry, what niche you're working in. Every woman out there is being affected by unjust things, and it just needs to stop. So there'll be more on this, and it was probably an eye opener for some of the younger folks that were watching this. But if you've been around for a while, it's really, really disturbing, because it's been going on too long. So, with that said, Ryan.
Yeah, just want to first and foremost, before we let everybody go here, thank you to the audience. Especially the new ones that have kind of come on, and especially the old ones that have kind of always tuned in with us. But thank you for taking this journey with us. We've gotten so many support, so many great messages, so many influence in terms of that. Hey, we're on the right path, right? And the thing with Jeff and I is that these are not controversial topics. At the end of the day, it's. I always said this on every episode that we look at a month like February, which is Black History Month, and shout out to this is Women's History Month in the U.S. as well. But I want this conversation to keep on going, regardless of what day it is, what month it is. We're not going to stop being advocates and being allies and do what we need to do to basically empower everyone. Everybody needs to be their best selves. I want people to kind of come in here, women especially, like not get pigeonholed into like HR or like ops or customer service, something like that. I want them to be like, you know what, I made a difference. I did it. I did what I wanted to do, and that was extremely important. So with that being said, if you did find value, which I know you did, please go back, check our previous episodes out, like, comment, subscribe, share this with anybody. Like we said, this sales chat is for everybody, and that's where we're trying to make this an inclusive and safe space for everybody. So with that being said, we'll hit the replay back on at 2 and 6 p.m. Eastern time, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Once again, want to thank our corporate sponsor, Daman at Centurion Trucking. They've got a completely inclusive team over there, and they're always looking for agents across North America, paying up to 60% GP. So, you heard Gail and what she said and what she believes in at the team there. So just imagine working alongside that, and hey, could be working with Gail, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Once again, we want to highlight that the Women in Trucking Accelerate is going to be in Dallas, Texas. I think it's November 5th to the 7th or 8th or something like that. We'll have to double check those dates. But like I said, we're there. And there'll be other events that Jeff and I go to as well. But definitely would love to meet everybody there, especially everybody in the audience. And who knows, we might do a couple episodes out there. You never know what we got in store. So that is it for me. Cowboy, take us home, my man.
Yes, thank you so much, everybody out there in the audience who have been supporting us over the last 4 weeks. It was a fundamental topic that needed to be discussed. Like I said, it's not over yet. We have, a lot more things to discuss, and the journey will continue, and we will fight for the right for women. So continue supporting us every day on Sales Chatter Live, the daily podcast, at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great afternoon, and we will see you tomorrow. Audacious Cowboy.